Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Hey guys, this is Venice, and I've got a message from a friend of mine about my favorite podcast.
It's your boy, Flavor Flav in full effect. Check this out, everybody. I want y'all to go check out TJ.
What's good, everybody? TJ Johnson here for Voice from the Underground. I am the most handsome.
Big Has.
And I'm smoking my cigar, of course.
You know what I'm saying? The Dutch.
You pick me up in an Uber and a PT Cruiser, I'm calling Lyft.
Cause they be fighting the power, talking about social issues, politics, you know what I'm saying?
And we're not even that good.
Right, we're terrible. Terrible. Tangents all over the place.
And not only that, but they be keeping it fun with the sports, music, comics, and movies too.
Am I allowed to talk?
I think, no, not right now.
Shut up, colonizer!
You know what I'm saying? He on Twitter at VFU Podcast. So you can find them. So check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy.
Okay, what Flav was trying to say is, check out Voice from the Underground on your favorite podcast network.
Voice from the Underground.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name is Brian, and joining me is, from a long distance away, is Henno.
Hello from Jamaica. Fun.
And, no Jen this week, because I believe she's in Florida, I believe.
Yes, she's in Florida.
Yeah, I'm still in, Suckwater, Michigan. And
I'm still in and I'm in Michigan.
Yeah, and y'all are all over the, much nicer places. But anyway, hopefully we'll have be back to a full crew next week, or we won't, whatever,
We're flexible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is obviously, a really big advantage to the three co-hosts, is that we usually can still put something together, So.
Yeah, if you hear any chirping in the background, they're not crickets, they're actually tree frogs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was gonna mention that before we started recording, and I forgot. So yeah, I forgot those are the frogs there.
Yeah, and then finding one was really cool because when the guy said it, he first said they were crickets, and I'm like, crickets? There's a security guard, and I'm like, I thought they were some sort of little frog. And then when I came back to the room and I looked it up, it said there's tree frogs and cricket toads.
Oh, okay.
And so he was talking about the cricket toads, and then we were for sure there were frogs. Then we started looking for them, trying to find. And there's as soon as you get close to one, they just shut up. And
really?
Sharon found one in a little tree, and it was like, oh sweet, we got some pictures of that and put it up on Facebook.
Yeah, because I was gonna say when I heard them, I was like they don't quite sound like crickets. Like they're similar, but they're not the same.
Yeah, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right. Well, I didn't realize that, or I would have introduced them as well. So
exactly, and our contingent of frogs.
Yeah, there are.
And then
our third host for the day.
Yeah, we get birds in the morning too, which are kind of cool.
Yeah,
like there's this pigeon that was hanging around, or a dove, or whatever it is. I guess I'm sure it's a dove, pigeon, dove, whatever.
Yeah,
and I was like, I wonder if this dove is used to getting food, and then because I didn't have anything I had some granola, but I didn't have like any breads or anything.
Yeah.
So then today I had the banana bread, and I get up and go to the bathroom, and I come back out, and the dove is in my chair. Now, granted, Sharon is literally in the other chair.
Yeah.
So where Sharon and I were sharing a table, now the dove is in my place.
Sure. Wearing your robe, got your slippers on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
She's talking to it just like it's you. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Picking its zits off its back.
Right.
I've got a funny story on that too, but that's more of a salty language story. Oh, thank God I said salty language. Okay. I still haven't done it yet, but again, I should talk to you this before we do the podcast, but hey, everyone, you'll love this. We go to the gift shop and there's a pair of shorts that says, "Stay salty."
Yes.
And somebody asked, or Neil brought it up, and somebody asked, or Sharon asked, are they men's shorts or women's shorts? And Neil's response was, does it really matter? I'm like, nope.
No, it doesn't. That's the correct answer. Yeah.
Yeah, because if Tony were here, he would have bought them and worn them.
or he would have been wearing them, whether he bought them or someone else did,
Did.
Yeah.
So I will get to the gift shop and see if this is something that needs to be purchased to at least put on a wall or something.
Yeah, right. Nice.
Yeah, so yeah, my life is really rough right now.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, it's difficult waking up every day to someone delivering you coffee and fruit and bread and whatever else you put off on a checklist.
Yeah.
To your front door.
Seems like it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get up and you go and I have been going to the gym, which is good. And then I'll go out and paddleboard or something and then come back in and then have second breakfast.
Yeah.
And then maybe grab an ice cream on the way down to the beach, float a little bit.
Oh man, this is brutal. Yeah.
The anxiety level when I get to the ice cream station.
Yeah.
And I'm forced with chocolate or vanilla, and then oh wow, look, it mixes them together at the blend. No anxiety. No, I am kidding, and I don't want to make light of people's anxiety.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, yeah.
No, I don't. I'm really. This week has been my win for the week, and it happened again tonight. And it gives me just so much gratitude when out of a group of 8 people with everybody drinking, they look at me and they say, I know you're the crazy one. And I'm the sober one.
Right.
Right. And it's happened a couple times now or something, because I am loud and it's who I am.
Yeah.
But what it says to me is that I don't stand out within myself, and to others, I don't stand out as different.
Yeah.
But the fact that I don't drink alcohol does not change who I am and what I do, other than the fact that I'm not probably doing something really dumb or making somebody mad or, all the other things, that I'm able to still be me. There's just no alcohol. And I don't look like that person that's not having a good time. I'm not, setting myself off in a corner somewhere because everybody else. And the funny thing about it is, until that moment happens, I don't even notice it.
Right.
That other people are drinking and I'm not. I just don't notice it.
Right.
The only thing is I really like it when it comes to beverage choices. It's like when the bar. I mean, here's the reality. Pretty much everyone picks one drink, maybe 2, and sticks to it all night long anyway. And that's what I do.
Yeah, right.
Cranberry and soda, or maybe a diet Pepsi or something. But it was kind of the reason I call it a win is because it is something that is really a big deal for people when they get sober. Is like, what am I going to do when I go to an all-inclusive resort and the booze is free?
Yeah, and not just free, but probably everywhere, I would assume. Like very readily available.
Yep, and they're coming and they're asking you, and the minute you walk in, you're being offered champagne. The minute you're this, the minute you're that, and everyone around you is drinking. And and they're offering weed and all sorts of, what did they call them again? Brownies that promise to put a smile on your face. And it's space cakes. That's what it was.
Space cakes. That's great.
I want to know what a space cake is, honestly.
Wow. Yeah.
And to be able to be here and just not have it be, ain't no thing, is really, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my sobriety, and I want other people to know that it is possible. This is doable. Whatever we want to, by going through the right process, doing whatever you need to do in recovery, we can do everything we did before. Whatever it is. Now, I imagine coming here, if you have an eating disorder, might be a little, weird, but.
Yeah, I would think though, same point, like if once you get to a certain point with it, it's probably,
maybe it's
a similar kind of thing. Cause like for you, like I said, the booze is everywhere.
That's true. But why wouldn't it be different for food?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And that's, you're right. It's
I would
true.
say this, like if I were a person that did have issues with that, I would definitely talk to, doctor, therapist, whatever, maybe before making a decision to go to a place where you can kind of, to where it's there, around you is kind of a, like I used to talk to my therapist before I knew I was going into high anxiety situations or whatever, because of, it's like, okay, I need to get my mind right to make sure that I stay on the successful path I want to be on,
Yeah. And I know, like, not for this trip, but the trips we did to Hawaii, we Sharon and I looked up meetings.
Yeah, right.
And we found where there were meetings, and that means, if maybe then, all right, maybe Jamaica isn't the place. Maybe more, somewhere that's still considered the United States, or Mexico. I know there's a lot of like 12-step meetings in near Mexican resorts because lots of Americans.
Yeah.
But so tailor your trips based on where you have your support network, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever your support network is, go to places where you have something like that, where you could leave the resort and kind of reconnect and ground yourself and get back into it. I think that's great advice. Always check in to make sure. It's kind of hard not to be. I guess I shouldn't say that. For myself now, I'm at the point where there isn't too much here that would trigger me.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Yeah. It does help too, I'm sure, that, for like you love being out, paddle boarding and doing all that kind of stuff too. And, plus there's distractions like massages and music and other stuff, that you can kind of just sink your mind into something else, I'm sure too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, and some people like, another great example. It's pretty empty here. Like, there aren't many people here.
Oh,
which
really?
is another thing, is that if people are a trigger for you and, create more anxiety, plan your vacations around, seasons that are where there aren't as many people.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. I think there is ways of traveling and still, keeping our sanity for, a little bit of a joke, but also just out of seriousness, because it is, it's not like getting here was easy.
Yeah.
And we all know that we talk about that more than anything else. Travel. Whew.
Yeah. Travel ends up being a trigger for a lot of people. If for no other reason, you end up just being so worn down. I think on the Daft Pod, the new episode of Daft Pod that you're on,
that's right.
Annalise kind of covers that with, her story about the guy who keeps bumping into her. You hit that point where you're so worn down that you're kind of just a raw nerve almost, and and that can trigger, whether it's anxiety, anger issues,
anything.
It could cause you to eat to comfort yourself afterwards, drink, whatever. So yeah, it's all stuff to just be aware of. Because, even though technically you're on vacation, mental illness and whatever, disorders or sicknesses, they don't take a week off. So
no, it doesn't. And a lot of, we're most of our isms end up, being very centered within ourselves, and that makes us self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's these moments where all your little breathing exercises and whatever it takes to kind of, bring you basically back down to earth and perspective. I think that's really one of the things with travel for myself, is when my sense of self, through whatever reason, entitlement, just being tired, being hungry, whatever that is, when my sense of self gets a little bit too big, where I think somehow I'm a little bit different than the other 130 people on this airplane, that's when the problem happens. But when I can put myself, if I bring in that perspective, is I'm just another bozo on the bus. I'm just like everyone else here. We're all trying to do the same things. Let the other people have what they need. It tends to work out better.
Yeah.
If somebody really needs to get by, let them get by.
Yeah. That's just good anywhere. Really, we've talked about that, I know, plenty of times on here where, like I've mentioned it at like the store or something, where somebody will like, go to run in front of me and I'm like, yeah, go ahead. It's like, if you got to get there that bad, like I think that for me, it kind of stems back to, when I was first trying to drive, and, my dad, noticed my anxiety, and he kind of pointed that out about driving too. Is like, if somebody wants around you that bad, just let them go. Just, because if they're speeding, driving like a maniac, just let them go and get away from you, basically. That way, you can just keep on keeping on, and you're less likely to be into an accident with them or something. It's just, And I think it translates really well to, you know, like you said, you're just another bozo on the bus. You're just another bozo in traffic. You're just another bozo at the grocery store. It's, you know, whatever it is. I think it all just, you'll just in the end be happier about it when you get to where you can kind of just be like, yeah, this person was just, you know, in a real hurry, and just kind of laugh it off and move on.
Yep. Yep. Give yourself extra time. Give yourself extra space.
Yep. Especially if you know you have, you know, anger issues, anxiety, whatever it is, you know. Just be kinder to yourself that way as well.
Yeah, so what have you been doing?
You know, just looking at Instagram, being real jealous. No. No, it's been, you know, like our weather here has been really nice. I mean, it's been about 70 and fairly cool here, like very little humidity and all this stuff. But I was telling Tony last night when we recorded, it's like, man, I've been having migraines almost every day again. And I was reading something last night. I have an app on my phone called Migraine Buddy, and it's so you can track your migraines, so you can kind of look for patterns and triggers and whatnot. And they posted a thing that talks about medicines for acid reflux. You know, like Pepcid and those kind of ones. Or not Pepcid, I'm sorry, like Prilosec and, you know, the long-term ones like that. That I guess there's become a direct correlation between those and migraines. Like a lot of people who have migraines, if they take those medicines, have reported that they have more migraines. So, and I've been taking one for the last week and a half roughly, and that's about when I've had my headaches. So I'm gonna, you know, stop using that and see if I just don't have headaches for a few days or whatever here. So, and if so, I guess I just add that to another, you know, potential trigger on the list. You know, it's amazing the stuff that can trigger. I guess it's because of something in how your body absorbs it, that it does something with your nerve receptors or something like that. So I was like, alrighty then.
Yeah, good to know.
It is, you know, on one hand, it's like, man, it's, you know, migraines, but, you know, on the other hand, it's like we've talked before, you know, like when you get a diagnosis and you feel some relief from it, you know.
Yeah.
This, because I've been trying to figure out, it's like, man, I haven't been eating anything differently or drinking anything differently. Our weather's been, like I said, pretty average and pretty nice. You know, we haven't had a lot of rain or anything. So it was like, I can't figure out what could be causing this, you know. And it's like, well, that's one thing that has changed in the last couple weeks. So, you know, when looking for a trigger, that's usually the thing that would stick out as the red flag for you, you know.
Yep.
So, yeah, but other than that, you know, not much. Still just plugging away at my eBay stuff and yeah, really, that's about it.
I had something really cool happen. I you know, you and I talk a lot about our art and just lack of motivation, or, you know, it just tends to be more a dream than a reality. And sometimes I need people to push me.
Yeah.
And one of them was a friend of ours who podcasts, and he wanted a song or some music, and I had some things that I was kind of working on, but, you know, I hadn't really finished anything yet. And I only had one thing that I actually felt that was good, and I was like, I need to come up with something else. But I was just having that fear again of sitting down at the desk. You know, it's just it's amazing how something that I have spent my whole life loving how to do, and I know you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, sometimes there's just an absolute weight, like, that's holding me back, which I find so strange when it's something that I love so much.
Right? And something you're confident in your skills at.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Or at least, at least you feel competent, like it's not, you sit down and go, I know I can do this,
Yeah. And I know that my standards are a lot higher than the other people. Like they're going to be really happy with it.
Yeah.
If and so I did the first thing and I sent it off and, great, awesome, yay. And I was kind of, like usual, cramming for the test at the last minute. And this was right before I was leaving. And so then the night before I was leaving, I got home from work and I was like, well, I wonder if I have something else. And I started working on something on my guitar. And it literally just flowed out of me. And an hour and a half later, I had sent this, it's 30 seconds. But I haven't felt this much joy in creating and writing. Like, I just kept listening to it over and over again going, whoa, did that just come out of, And I even, because then I was like, this needs to be a song. Like this can't be. I'm happy. I sent it to him and I said, here, boom, here's your outro. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was like, this is perfect. And then I sent it to my bandmates and I just said, hey, should I develop this? And every response was yes, yes, yes. Like, wow. And even when I came here, I'm with Neil, who's known me my whole life. Well, not quite, but for most of my adult life. And I was just like, what do you think of this? Yeah. And he's just like, that's really good. And I'm like, okay, well, I haven't felt that way in a long time. I felt good about playing music.
Mm-hmm.
Like learning to play bass has been really great, but I haven't had my art lift me.
Yeah. I was going to say,
long time.
That's a different itch, Like it's still being creative, but it's not the same being creative. Like you're learning how to use a new tool, but you're not necessarily, creating with those muscles that you're used to using. So sometimes that itch is different. Yeah.
It's also like playing bass is an enjoyment, but it's not an extension of my insides.
Right.
It doesn't.
That's what I was trying to say, basically. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, cool. This is a new, marker or art device of some sort. And it's like, this is awesome. And you sit down and you just draw a box with it. You're like, yeah, whatever. It looks great. But it's like, I didn't really create anything. I just drew a box,
Yeah, exactly. It was, it had me, and, of course now I'm on vacation. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to come home. I'm excited to actually get to work on this. I don't know what's going to come of it, but it's been a long time, and
awesome.
I needed that because that weight that prevents me from doing something that I love baffles me.
Yeah, and it does with most,
just baffles me.
Most creative people, I mean, if you look on Amazon for books about like creative block or whatever, there's tons out there. And I constantly see, articles that have been written on how somebody got over their block, and it's so amazing because it's like you can sit down and talk with anybody creative and start describing it and they go, yes, I totally know what you're talking about. But it seems like everybody has to have a different way to get over theirs. It seems like the same thing doesn't work for a lot of people, Like for, like my kind of situation, there's all sorts of, drawing challenges to where the whole point of it is to just get you doing something every day and that, in the long run, you'll get creative and start doing something, but it doesn't work for a lot of people. I don't know why.
You know where this actually came from was I took something old and I turned it into something new.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's going to be my thing to re-inspire me. Is anytime I'm not feeling a block, it's like, okay, let's go. This was like, and I'm talking 20 years old.
Oh wow.
And I one thing I started, I took something that was 20 years old, and I did it note for note exactly the same. This was, I took something 20 years old and I just made it a little bit different.
Okay. Nice.
And the juices started flowing. So I think that's going to be my strategy, because I'm not going to go. I decided just before I left, my GM was like, do you want to, are you going to be go in on the ski pass? I said, nope, I'm taking this winter off. I want to write. I want to get back into my music. And one of the things I want to get back into is I want to find those things from 20 years ago or 10 years ago that I never finished.
Yeah. That's a really interesting approach, though. Like, take something that you, like you said, you wrote it 20 years ago, so there's a familiarity to it.
It's me.
And then when you start playing with it a little bit, it, that's where the creative process starts kicking back in. Like you said, it starts getting your juices going, because you're not just sitting down going, okay, I'm just going to play this now. And it'll sound different because it's on different equipment than 20 years ago. Now you're like, no, I'm actually going to make changes to it. And now it's become its own, its own thing. So
is it funny? It's like I'm doing a cover. I'm like, it's like it's a cover tune, but it's not a cover tune. It's me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
it's not it's not today me.
Right.
It's a me from, a past life, a past experience, a past everything, and maybe that's why I never got finished. Was because that me wasn't ready to finish it.
Yeah, that's very likely. Because it's the stuff you've dealt with, especially you think 20 years ago, that was before you got sober and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure you had other distractions that got in the way at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting, I was listening to a podcast interview with Linda Perry, the musician and singer and songwriter and producer, and just amazing person. And she's the type of person that says, you spent how many weeks writing?
Yeah, that was that Broken Record, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that too. Yeah.
And she's right. The songs that have been the best for me wrote themselves.
Yeah.
They were just done.
That's one of the things I'm always interested in hearing when I listen to podcasts with songwriters. Is like when I listen to that what's it called, The Jump with Shirley Manson, when she talks with Big Boy, he talks about how sometimes he'll just sit down and boom, and it's here's a song, but other times it'll take him months to finish the song, basically, and I had just listened to that other interview with Linda Perry, and it's kind of funny how she's basically almost like, why are you wasting your time? If it isn't there, it isn't there, basically,
Yeah.
Like, work on what is there.
She seems like the person that's not letting that weight get a hold of her.
Yeah, it sure seems that way.
And so I like listening to her was very inspirational for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. I think I have it. I don't think it's a lack of creativity. I think it's a fear of a lack of creativity.
Yes. Like with mine, that's definitely what it is.
Yeah. It's the fact we could be creative still, but we have a fear in ourselves that we like, to me, listening to Linda, and I've heard other musicians that I admire too, like this, where they just sit down and create, and it doesn't matter. They're like, so I drew children's building blocks today. I created.
Yeah.
I didn't create the Mona Lisa today.
Right. But you don't have to. Yeah.
I did a square today, but I did create.
Yep. I've heard other writers, not songwriters, but just creative writers in general, talk about that, just write every day. Just sit down and write, even if it's garbage, just write, because somewhere along the way you'll find something salvageable, or something worth developing, or whatever it is,
Yeah. And I think there's something that also kind of, yesterday night, Sharon, Neil, Annalise, and myself were having dinner, and we were talking about podcasting. and we were talking about like podcasting voices and how sometimes it sounds like a conversation. Like for the most part in Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks, when they podcast, they're just having their husband and wife having a conversation. The only time Neil has podcaster voice is maybe in the beginning.
Yeah.
When he does his introductions. And I was comparing how I sound on when I'm doing Moving the Needle versus, The Crazy Life or the Orville. And one thing I thought about was there are times when we do this podcast where, like, Neil says when I do The Crazy Life is when it's the most that sounds like my voice.
Yeah.
And I said, well, okay, a lot of that makes sense because when I'm talking about recovery and sobriety, it's things that I've talked about for like, it's a part of my life. It's something that I could talk to people about every day. I'm pretty well rehearsed on it. But the one thing that hit me, and I shared it with them, is like, there are times where I really feel like I'm getting on a high horse, like, and I don't want to come up, right? I don't want to sound, I want to be encouraging to people. I don't want to sound like, and I'll always correct myself, and Neil kind of laughed at that. He's like, yeah, I can tell when you do that. And I guess maybe that's just the difference between being, a professional speaker and just an amateur, is that you know how to present a topic in a way where you don't sound like you're being holier than thou, or where you don't feel like, and I want to work on that. But I think where I'm getting at and why I'm bringing this up is when I think about these concepts of not being afraid to create, and also sometimes I think ultimately there's humility at the foundation of all of this.
Yeah.
And that the more humility I bring into sharing my personal experiences, the less I'm going to feel that shame of like, was I being too, aggressive in my opinion, or I don't even know what it is. I know when it comes out, I don't like the way it feels.
Yeah, that's fair. I can understand that.
Right.
I've noticed myself doing that at different times too, where I'm trying to encourage somebody to do something, but you're kind of like, am I preaching? Like, I'm not trying to preach. I really just want people to be able to live the best life they can live, and, like one thing I've noticed with you, and I've tried, was early on I noticed that when you talk about a lot of stuff, most of the time you don't use the like, well, you should do this, you're very much more like, I did this. This is what worked for me. Like, and that's why I think part of the reason why I like to point that out on the show a lot too, is that it's that we, this is what worked for me. This is what worked for us. Doesn't mean it'll work for anybody else, but this is, like we've said all along, our goal here is basically throw just everything at the wall. And if something works for you, awesome, like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think as long as our goal kind of stays there, I think we're fine, because I really don't think that we do get preachy very often. I mean, I think we do occasionally without meaning to, but again, it's always, the intent is pure. Like we're not trying to be preachy. Like, you're not going to go like push someone into recovery. I'm not going to go push someone into therapy, like I may strongly encourage it or say, hey, I really think you might benefit from this. But again, we're not doctors or trained professionals. So
yeah,
we leave the pushing to them.
Is it funny? I thought about this idea of like, all right, here I am talking about me. This is what I did, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. That's the point of sharing my experience. Boy, there's a lot of ego in that. It's me, I.
Don't you know who I am? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the weird part. And then also,
that was one of the hard things for me to get over originally about doing this show. Was for years and years, I was not the person who would share about my feelings or these kind of things. And I went from that to where now I'll talk with anybody about it, basically. And, I got to a point, though, at one point, I was like, geez, I just, like, I just feel like I'm just me. But
Yes.
you kind of have to be, because the narrative of the
Exactly.
show is us telling our journey. So really, it has to be a lot of me.
And as we talk about, recovery is a selfish act.
Yeah.
Change within ourselves is a selfish act. It's so that it's us putting the oxygen mask on ourselves so we could be of better use to others.
Right.
And I think I'm hoping one thing that a little reboot I can have for my vacation. And a lot of it does have to do with coming to a different country and seeing how other people live.
Mm.
Because I did leave the resort yesterday and I went into Jamaica, and we're going to leave the resort again on Wednesday, is to find some humility and simplicity again in my life. The more I have that in my life, I just think I think it's better for me.
Yeah.
I can still have my opinions and my thoughts and beliefs, but I can present them in a way where they maybe come across as a smaller, more acceptable bite-sized piece, rather than something large where somebody says, "Whoa, that's a lot,"
Yeah.
And then same thing with my music, and even like my work, what I do at work, how I do it. I'm feeling a little I'm giving myself a little kick in the butt. Like, hey, let's get back to that path of being the right size for the situation. Be more. It's like I always talk about on here. I admire the humble rock star. You can be a rock star. You could be a massively successful athlete. You could be an incredibly I guess just a successful person who has a message that is being broadcast everywhere, and it still can be done in a way where you admire how the person does it. And I admire those people, and I'd like to have more of those qualities.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't sound boastful.
Right. Yeah, that's
and I think
an interesting part of the journey. Yeah, because it really is easy to, or not easy, but it's to slip into that without meaning to. Like we've said, it's.
Yeah, and I think about like a work. That's where the whole don't you know who I am stuff comes from. If I'm keeping things of the right size, that's never an issue. That never comes up. It doesn't affect me, and I feel the same thing with art too, and with music is like, what I have to create some grand statement.
Yeah.
No. If I can sit down and I can make 3 notes work together today, that's art.
Yeah.
That's good enough. It's who's saying it has to be so dramatic? Oh, that's my insecure. That's my fear. I'm not counting on a paycheck off of this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I do it because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So enjoy it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I kind of got with it too, was that because you're right, it's like we're not looking to make money on this. The whole goal is that just we can help some people who maybe because like me, it took me forever to finally seek help, and I don't want people to wait that long, like if they're in a place where they're ready for help, but I want to make sure people know how and, where they can find these things, because these resources are out there. It's just, I didn't realize how much, how accessible they were. Like even back in the, when I was first thinking about it, it's like, geez, I could have easily just gone to my doctor and talked to him. That was it. Because when I finally did talk to her, it was the easiest thing in the world once I was in the door, like,
yeah,
she could not have been better about it. I was fortunate that I had a good doctor at the time too, but, and that's the whole thing out of this. I mean, like I said, I'm not looking to get, big fame and rich or anything like that. I just hope some people find some takeaways that are worth it to just make their day-to-day life better.
Yeah. One thing that's in a lot of the 12-step programs that gets brought up a lot about is how, everything's a suggestion. And it really, there is a lot of that, meaning that, hey, listen, take what rings true with you and leave the rest behind. No one's forcing you to do anything, right? But what's kind of cool in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, that's basically the foundation of all 12-step programs. There's a few places where something isn't a tradition, a suggestion, and one of them is there's a line that says, "We absolutely insist on enjoying life."
Yeah. That's
and when
good.
you take that simple statement, right? It's like, hey, no matter what you do, we insist that you enjoy life.
Yeah.
And it's the simplest form of encouragement. Like, no matter what, have fun.
Yeah. And I think what me and Jen covered last week, I think really kind of helps to some extent with that too. That you get to a point like me coming out of just being depressed all the time. I was reframing my thoughts so that I could at least start finding joys in things, starting to enjoy things again. And then you hit a point where you realize that becomes such work, essentially, that you're just focused on doing the work, essentially. And now it's like, okay, now I need to make another adjustment because I'm starting to basically, like our bodies, whenever you do something, your body tends to get used to it and it just becomes muscle memory, and I think I kind of hit that point, and that's why that article last week, I think, kind of jumped out at me a little bit when I was reading it, because it really did make me kind of go, this is a good point. Like, you kind of have to keep your brain guessing a little bit, so that you can enjoy unexpected things. Because otherwise, it's all of it becomes, if anything's even a little negative, I go into a process of how can I reframe this positively, and it's like, no, sometimes things just suck. Like, that's okay. It's and those are important lessons to learn along the way too. There isn't necessarily, you don't have to find the silver lining in everything.
No, you don't. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So on a let's just say on a dark day, when you're in a say a darker mood, and you don't feel like reframing stuff, and you don't feel like, are there things that even in a dark day allow you to enjoy life? Like, and what are those things? What do you do that it's not intended to lift you up, but it's intended to make you enjoy life?
Yeah. I think that's where you have to find, like, you have to be, where I'm at now, it's easier because I can find, I can find and accept moments of joy easier. Years ago it would have been much, much harder, but now it might be something, just as simple as, seriously, that, I had some ice cream today, the little wins type stuff, or maybe I was feeling really down, didn't feel like getting out of bed, but I, turned on, Futurama or something like that, and, just a little something that I know I enjoy. And just kind of putting a few of those kind of moments in there, that way, it also stops my brain from going, oh, all you did today was, it was a loss. It was there were no wins today, kind of a thing. Cause then now, like I said, with the tools I've learned, I can look at it and go, no, actually, you know what? I had ice cream that I enjoyed. I had, I watched a TV show I liked. These are okay things, it was like, I'm very much learning to appreciate and accept mundane days as good days. I think for a long time, the way I would describe things to people would be like, if nothing really happened, it would just be like, oh, it was a boring day. It was okay, you know? And it's like, no, look, it's like, okay, first check mark on the day. Did anything really bad happen? You know? If you can check that off and go, nope, it's like, all right, well, you know what? This isn't just an okay day. Like, right now, you're leaning to the good. You know? Then you can look for other check marks. And if there's enough things, I guess, that drop it down. But otherwise, it's like, it's kind of like when someone says, how are you? And you just, I'm okay. Or not bad. You know, those are the reframes that I think you get to where you do it without really working hard at it. And they make big differences. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, I can go, well, I had ice cream today. I watched a TV show I really like. Yeah, I laid in bed all day. So that's, you know, that leans the wrong way from where I want to go. But it's like on the day, it's like, hey, you know, okay, hey, you know what? If I was grading this day, it's a 70%. And, you know, that's passing. You know, like that's not a fail. That's a pass. So I've tried really hard to do that. But there are days when you're just so in it that there's just nothing, you know, like I'm going to be in bed all day and I can't even look at anything that was a win today. Like the day after, maybe I can go, you know what? I didn't even think about the fact that I did this or this, you know, that maybe I sat in a chair instead of laying in bed, or I did get up and take my medicine and made sure I stayed hydrated. So at least I had self-care, you know?
Yeah, like I think about like on those down days where you said you pop the TV on and even just like you chuckle at a few things.
Yeah,
like that's me still enjoying life. Or I put some music on, and even though the music that I've chosen is something that, all right, kind of maybe feeds my mood, but if I get lost in it, that means I'm enjoying life.
Exactly.
Because to me, not enjoying life is if I shut it off and I didn't even pay attention to it.
Right. To me, a loss, like if I were looking at a day and I wanted to say it was really like a bad day from just the like depression angle, it would be that I realized that I was just indifferent all day. Basically that no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. You know, kind of a thing. Those are the days that are more concerning to me at this point, you know, because as I've said on here before, you know, I've gotten to where I allow myself to have those bad days sometimes because they happen. You know, nobody's got 100% win record against depression, you know, like you're just not going to. And there's just going to be some days you wake up like that and it's just like, it's a nope day. Like you just not having it today, but try not to let it be 2 weeks, you know, like that kind of a thing. You know, you try to fight where you can fight, but there's some days where you're just like, nah, I'm just going to curl up in the fetal position and let life kick me, you know, like it's just as horrible as that sounds. It's just how it has to be sometimes. And then it's like tomorrow I'm not letting it kick me, you know?
Remember when I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I shared about a friend that shares a gratitude with me on a regular basis.
Yep.
I got a really, it was so heartfelt and wonderful, and I want to share it on this show. Was it had been a really bad week, and you know, medications weren't working right, actions weren't, you know, like wrong size for the situation, basically, kind of stuff.
Right.
Could have handled that better. Could have, you know, maybe this wasn't so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was a slip. Things aren't working. What am I grateful for today? Me. Because I'm still trying.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, it just, like, it was so heartwarming to me. And I was like, yes, that's the best gratitude there is. Because sometimes that's the last thing we think about. It's so easy to go, okay, I'm grateful for my cat and my dog, or,
yeah,
you know, I'm grateful that I have a car. I'm grateful for me, that I'm still here and I'm still doing it.
I'll tell you what, man, when you get to that stage, I don't even know if your friend will know how big of a statement that is. Because generally the last thing you appreciate when you're doing those kind of things is yourself. But it's something that we all should appreciate more. Like it should be higher on that list a lot of times. And for many people, it isn't. So that's a big thing, like you said, because most of the time it ends up being, I'm glad I have my cat because, that's why a lot of people, that have, like depression that have animals, a lot of times, like the last cat that I had, there were days when I lived by myself that she was the only reason I got out of bed because I know I have to get her food and water, So, but when you get to it's like, well, no, you're grateful for yourself. That means like on that day, you probably made sure you got up and got yourself food and water. That's huge for some people. That's a big, 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 statement, because again, depression and stuff really just hammers at your self-worth, that you're not worth, being grateful for, or you shouldn't be around or whatever.
And what was really great was she also referenced just listening to our show and that it was an inspiration to her. And I just wanted to say, thank you for listening and thank you for sharing that, because it's so it again, like, here I can get full of doubts about myself and what we do here and why we do here, and then I get a message like that and I go, oh, that's why we do this.
Exactly. Yep.
Because I want a perpetual recovery feedback loop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what got me sober.
Mm-hmm.
That's what keeps me involved in recovery, is it bouncing back around and it constantly going back around and always being teachable and always being excited and inspired by somebody else.
Yeah.
No matter where they are in recovery, and sharing that and being grateful for people and congratulating them and encouragement and all of that. Yeah, that to me, like that is enjoying life to me. When you're in recovery or when you're in struggle, even on a dark day, that can be enjoying life, that little moment.
Yeah, it really can. That's why I've said on here so many times that, just a casual reach out to somebody. Hey, how you doing? Like you don't know what kind of difference that can make in somebody's day, cause it could just come out of nowhere. And then that may be their like, wow, somebody actually does care kind of a thing, and it's amazing the stuff that keeps people from causing themselves harm. I've been listening to a lot of the Hilarious World of Depression podcast, and which is a good podcast. I recommend it to anyone out there.
Great title.
It is. Well, the very first thing he asks every guest basically is depression funny? And it's a great conversation starter.
Wow.
Yeah. And, that show talks a lot about, this kind of thing, about, getting help. And, I totally forgot where I was going with this originally. Oh, jeez. Oh, boy. It was an episode I was listening to the other day. I don't even remember now. Shoot. I totally blanked.
It's fled.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
I'm going to segue for a second, and then maybe we'll come back around. When I think about it, I think because talking of podcast titles, I think this show being called The Crazy Life, is about enjoying. It is about enjoying life within our isms.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because you're kind of poking fun at it.
Exactly.
Is depression hilarious?
Yeah. Oh, well, I remember what it was.
Cool.
It was an episode actually they did that we've talked about doing too, because I think pretty much every show on depression does, or that covers depression does, which is about music. And they had people call in and tell what their coping songs were. And this one woman, I cannot remember the name of the song now. Shoot. Anyway, the song she picked, she went to the store, bought things basically to kill herself. And on her way home, this song came on, and she just broke down, just sobbing. And for some reason afterwards, didn't feel like doing it anymore. And that's become like her, you know, she's seen them in concert. I can't remember who it is now, but she's seen the band in concert now. And, you know, and they play the song live, and she just starts sobbing at the concerts and everything, you know. So it's, but like I said, you know, you just never know that one random thing, you know, could keep you here instead.
Can save your life.
Yeah. The craziest part of that episode, complete sidebar here, is that one of the people on the episode is actually from Toledo. Like that she called in, because she was, recommending a song by Crystal Bowersox called Dead Weight. And for anybody who may not know, Crystal Bowersox is from Northwest Ohio, and she was on American Idol.
Oh.
And did, I can't remember if she won or she got really far, whichever it was. And you know, so of course, you know, so she's, if you go to any area that's near where she's actually from, they claim her basically. So that's why it's just Northwest Ohio. But the song, and I had never heard that song before, but man, it's a heavy song. But it was cool because then they had Crystal Bowersox on. She talks about how when she wrote the song, she went from it being basically like I'm at rock bottom kind of a situation to now it's more of a, it's kind of more of an anthem to her. And it's a pretty strong song. I was kind of blown away when you really dig into the lyrics a little bit for it. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway, that's what it was about. I was just trying to demonstrate that you just don't know some little thing, no matter whether it's music or a phone call or a TV show or guy. I heard on one podcast one time, a guy said he was walking home, and on the way home, he was trying to find a reason to live. And, he was walking through a park, and this dog went running by him, and, you know, the leash dragging behind it. And he chased the dog down and caught it, and it was this little girl's dog. And it just broke his heart. The thought of this girl almost lost her best friend, basically, kind of a thing, you know, and all this. And the mom was with the girl. The dog she had let the little girl kind of hold on to the dog, and the dog was too big, you know, got away. And the mom was like, basically looked at the guy and was like, you know, I don't know what we would have done without you. And the little girl then like called him her hero. And he goes, and there it was. He's like, there was my reason, you know, kind of a thing. And, you know, so I said, you just don't know one little thing will just click in your brain and go, you know, maybe I should give this another go, you know? So.
Oh, it really just shows how alone those thoughts are.
Yeah.
Like it really, it's about not feeling that there's a world around you.
Yeah.
And then being snapped into like, no, there is a world around me.
Yeah. And
there's other people. Wow.
And they notice me. Like,
yes.
I think that's what it is with a lot of people is you think, so many people think just because people don't directly interact with you that you're walking through invisible, and you're not, you know, it's, but
oh, boy, does that say, that's a statement, Brian.
Yeah, but that's how you feel. You really do.
But that's like it, you know, like Jen ending the show, or you know, talk about just being kind. It's like, you know what? Notice people.
Yeah.
Notice everybody.
Yeah.
Let them know you notice them. I mean, that doesn't mean you have to be a total weirdo. But
yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
But there's a way to like honestly, we don't know that might be that person that's next to you in the grocery store that's in that space.
Yeah.
And some little something could make them realize that I'm not alone in this world.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, just little dumb stuff too. You never know.
Yeah.
Just, letting someone go before you, saying thank you,
Yeah. Or complimenting someone on their shoes
Yeah.
or.
Yep. And it is.
Yeah.
That's a great example, actually. How many times, remember that day I told the story on here about the woman talking about my shoes when I was in the elevator at the doctor's office, and, how she was like, oh, I've always been afraid of, or I've always wanted a pair of shoes that are bright red, but, and I was like, get them. Don't, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Who cares what other people think?
It's true.
And you could tell me saying that, you could just look at her and it was almost like I unburdened that for her. It was so funny. And I'm not patting myself on the back on this. I'm just saying that you could see it, it made my day when she complimented my shoes, I was like, oh, cool. Someone appreciates them, and,
well, here's the thing is a lot of, Neil and I were talking about this a couple days ago. He had this cool little ball that skips on the water. And so we're throwing this ball back and forth with each other.
Uh-huh.
He's always had this little Nerf football.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so we had that and this ball. And he's like, I'm like, where did you get this? And he goes, the first time I saw one of these years ago, but I just only recently bought it. And I'm like, well, why didn't you buy it? And he's like, my anxiety.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I don't know if I should buy it or if I should, or, it's what, and I was like, and it reminded me that, these are the things that affect us. It's not always big things.
Right.
It could be something so little and silly. And all it takes is for someone like you to say, I think you should buy the shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I think you should buy that cool little skipping water ball.
Yeah. It's funny. Tony actually was that voice to me for a long time. And we joke about it now to where he used to be like, hey, you should buy that. And I'd buy it. And, not all the time, but there were various times we'd be out somewhere. I was kind of looking at, this was back when we were, 22, something like that, I don't know, 9,000 years ago. And I was looking at this soccer jersey that I really dug. And, he was like, and I was like, I don't know, and he was like, you should buy it. And I was like, you're right, I should. It was just, it was a bad influence thing. But at the same time, I was, and this is what happens with anxiety a lot of times too, is you're kind of looking for someone to, like you just said, basically to let you know it's okay to buy it.
Well,
and it's not a permission thing as far as
no, it's not that. Yeah.
It's almost like you just need someone to confirm that you're not crazy for wanting it.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I can imagine how every little thing that builds anxiety that you don't follow through on builds inside you,
right?
One after the other. They all add and they multiply, and then they exponentially grow, and that eventually it just becomes this mound of tiny little I'm not sure's.
Yeah.
And to be able to just knock one of those off,
well,
it's got to be huge.
I can tell you exactly what happens over time for it is because eventually it becomes where I am now, where I am overly paralyzed by what ifs, and it sucks. And this is, trust me, anyone listening, this is not a place you want to be. So if there's, a cool little ball that skips on the water that you're wanting, and, and of course I'm, within reason and of finances and all those kind of things, in the perfect setting, essentially, buy it if it makes you happy for, whatever, or like this, you guys throw it there and, have a time with it.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
Had a great story. Well, and I'll even go further than this. The books that I read about, about financial stuff, and especially with, and we talked within the last couple of months, I talked extensively about Debtors Anonymous on our show.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they'll say is spend the $5 and buy the ball. The creditor can wait another month on that $5.
Yeah.
If it's the difference between having a little joy in your life.
Yes.
And that's one of the things with the money programs they always talk about is you first. Predator second.
Right. Because I think it works the same way as like diets. If you keep staring at cake, you know, in the long run, it's not going to turn out well, probably.
You're just going to get more depressed.
Yeah, and eventually you're probably going to binge eat a cake. You know, like it's like have a little taste of cake here and there, and
have some cake,
and be okay with it. Enjoy the cake. You know, I mean, because if for no other reason, you know, you may not wake up tomorrow, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer about it. It's just the truth, you know, like so. Have your little wins. It's fine. I mean, it's different if it's like, you know what I need? I need that Dodge Hellcat. You know, like
or the heroin. Probably not.
Probably a bad choice there. Yeah. So
yeah, like you don't get to have a sip of the whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one doesn't really work. But I have taken a sniff of the caramel vodka, and that was darn good smelling.
Right. Yeah. You know, it is interesting, as I've talked before about the whole, like, it's weird to me, but I also get it, how somebody who's, you know, like an alcoholic would want to, like, sniff, like a beer or whiskey or something like that. And it's like, but I get it, because there is, especially like the craft beers now, you know, they brew them with so many different things that some of them have got a really neat smell to them, you know? So it's just, in my head, I think I always registered it more as like that story I told you about the Ultimate Warrior, the wrestler, you know, how he used to just sniff a chocolate chip cookie or crumble it up and sniff it and then throw it away. Because he didn't want it in his body, but he loved the smell of them a lot. So, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to be that guy, you know, like, but I get it now a little more.
My mom does that with cigarettes every once in a while. If someone's smoking a cigarette, like a friend of mine or something like that, she doesn't do it now, but like, you know, like 10 or 20 years ago when we'd have a party at the house, she'd go out there. She's just like, I just want to smell a little bit. And because again, that's her enjoying life.
Yeah.
It's not denying herself. She's not going to go back and start smoking cigarettes. She doesn't want to.
Right.
But that doesn't mean she can't have a little moment of like, yes, that's what that was like.
Right. This is flavor country. Right. I've missed you. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was funny. Can you call the Tonight Show Flavor Country? That's a salty language thing.
That would be a really weird title for this show.
That really would be Flavor Country.
Flavor Country? Although, if anyone knows you're in Jamaica, they may think I'm not talking about the normal kind of cigarettes.
Yeah, it's true. We're talking about space cakes.
Yeah, space cakes. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
But yeah, it's always, you know, like seriously, enjoy your life, you know. Especially again, you know, I keep going back to this. It's like there's so much out there telling us how much things stink. You know?
No kidding.
It's like, you know what though? Things may stink, but cake still tastes good, or you know,
hell yeah, it does.
Ice cream's still great. You know, like so. I'm gonna just hang my hat on these things. I noticed I'm really food centric tonight for some reason. So I must be my sugar tooth must be acting up tonight or something. Probably because I know I have a little bit of ice cream in the fridge. So
oh yeah,
that probably won't be there tomorrow.
I've got a 24-hour soft serve machine that's only 100 feet away from me.
I'm surprised you're not broadcasting from there, just pumping ice cream into your face.
No, we said juice. From Encino Man sticking his head under the frosty thing.
Oh man.
Oh Lord.
Henno's like on his way back. You know, they have to have people wait for a second bus to come back around because Henno's taking up, you know, 4 seats now. So
4 seats because soft serve.
Yeah. So much ice cream.
I'm afraid I may have gotten you carried away from your topic, Brian.
No, it's fine. That's good. It reminds me of like when Tony and Jeannie went on that cruise, and when they were trying to, talk to me about going on one in the future with them, and Tony was like, man, 24 hours a day pizza. And I'm like, dude, that is a bad idea.
Oh, dude, they had a pizza. So Monday night was lobster night. So all the little restaurants served lobster some way or another.
Yeah.
The next day, all the extra lobster ended up on a pizza.
Oh my.
So there was red pepper, green pepper, cheese, tomato sauce, and lobster. And pineapple.
What?
It was delicious.
It probably was, yeah.
It really was. This friend of Neil and Annalise's that I met tonight, Anthony, he's like, look, I'm from New Jersey. That ain't pizza. But if I look at it as like an open-faced sandwich,
See, reframing, positive reframing. Yeah, because I'm with him. Like, I mean, I'm from Ohio/Michigan, but that still ain't pizza.
He's all, put an open-faced lobster sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the pineapple on it.
Like, it's not a lobster roll. It's not a pizza.
Nope.
It's somewhere in there. Yeah.
It's an open-faced lobster and pineapple sandwich.
Right. Cut into triangles and served like pizza.
Yes. Yeah. Just that's all.
Oh man.
It's got cheese.
Yeah. How is that though? I have never had lobster and cheese together.
I have never had that before, and I'm telling you, it was delicious.
Yeah.
Like, it was legit. Now, granted, yes, the lobster is fresh.
Oh yeah.
This does help. It doesn't. I mean, I'm not a big seafood person. I think I had 3 or 4 slices. I just couldn't stop eating it. It was so tasty.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm not a big seafood person either, but I would definitely, I would try that for sure. As much as it is against everything I stand for to put pineapple on a pizza. But on an open-faced lobster sandwich, however.
See, this is why you need to be here, Brian.
Yeah. That's totally, I'd be like, I like the way you think, man. Like the cut of this guy's jib. I want to offer him a job at my company.
You go down there at 2 a.m. I want some French fries. Yes, sir.
You guys wouldn't even ever wonder where I'm at. You'd probably just be like, is Brian... Oh, geez, he's... I'm just going back and forth between fries and the ice cream machine.
And that's where they have the meat patties too, which are just...
Wait.
It's a pierogi. It's just flatter and bigger. It's like the size of, like a large taco shell.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But it's basically just, it's a pierogi or whatever you want to call it in your culture. In Estonia, it's pirukat. That's all it is. It's just a meat with spices in a deep fried patty, and they're just out there all the time, and they're delicious.
Yeah, that'd be dangerous. I'd probably have to have a cardiologist walking around with me. Like, just in case.
Yeah, and then, it's like this morning there was blackberry juice.
Oh, really?
Which I'd never had before. It was so unbelievably good. The juices they have every day for breakfast, and then they have their like fruit veggie bar where you can get, vegan stuff or vegetarian stuff. And they always have some sort of a juice that they make up, whether it's a mango, blah, 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 with a little bit of ginger. And then they have a great water that has the mint and watermelon in it. And
nice.
Those are just things like, if there was more of this in our culture in America, we wouldn't be drinking freaking Cokes all the time.
No, seriously. I'd rather drink that all the time. I mean, it'll still rot your teeth, but whatever.
Well, at least it's basically just water and ice with watermelon and some mint floating in it.
Yeah, which is a nice touch. I've had that here.
Yeah, if that's were more if unfortunately our culture doesn't push that to the front.
No,
unfortunately. So
yeah, it is unfortunate.
There's things that they do here in Jamaica, like as far as there's just fresh fruit right there. Available, you something out of this.
Yeah,
it's like,
I would love that. Yeah,
we need this.
Yep, because I love eating fruit and stuff, but it's just it's tough. It's almost like you have to ration yourself with it here because a lot of times the cost ends up becoming prohibitive.
That's it.
So, yeah.
Which doesn't make sense either.
No, really doesn't. But here we are.
If we could only as a culture grow more fruit and vegetables to the point where it's just so cheap that all of us can have it. Everybody, oh crud! Now I'm talking like some sort of a communist. Never mind.
Put the soapbox
box
away, Henno. You're on vacation. No soapbox.
Put that thing away, Henno.
Yeah.
No soapbox. I'm enjoying life.
Yeah, exactly. Before we wrap up here, I wanted to mention, I mentioned the Hilarious World of Depression podcast. There were 2 episodes in particular that I've listened to in the last week that I thought they're really good, like resource-y type ones. One is just on getting help. And he talks with somebody from NAMI on there about what steps to take and things that are kind of out there for people. So, if you're somebody who's considering taking that step, maybe go have a listen to that. The link will be in the show notes. And the other one that I found was pretty interesting was actually, it had Lady Gaga's mom on it. And they talk about the Born This Way Foundation and how they've done stuff with teaching people mental health first aid so that you can essentially help people who need help.
Very important.
And again, we're not talking like therapy level or doctor level, but just so as much like learning CPR, that in some situations you may just be able to kind of intervene with people, to help them until they can get more qualified help or whatever. And I guess there's places all around the country where they put these on, like these training seminars and stuff. So that was a pretty interesting listen as well. Again, that one will be in the show notes too if you're interested. She gives a website on there. I forgot to write it down, but I know it's something along the lines of like mentalhealthfirstaid.com or something to that effect. But yeah, definitely check those out. And then of course, I wanted to point out once again that, Henno was on the most recent episode of Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks, which is always a fun listen. Because hearing you and Neil together is always fun because you guys don't get an opportunity to do that very often. And
no, we don't.
And it's it's this is going to sound so bad, but this is exactly how I heard it. And I'm identifying with it because Tony and I are the same way, which was listening to you and Neil talk. Essentially, I almost pictured it as though you guys were playing a game of Keep Away with Annalise. Where she kept trying to get her points and you guys are just riffing and she's staying good natured about it, of course, but it was just, it was like, oh, poor. And I know, Tony and I have been told we do that sometimes. I think anybody, when you get like two friends of that nature together, that kind of happens, cause you almost become one when you're around each other. So it's hard to, not be that way. But it was a fun listen, and Henno tells some stories on there, at least one that's definitely not okay for this show. So, go listen to it.
Yeah. If you want a little
too much
TMI.
Yeah.
That was fun.
But a fun listen anyways. You guys talk about some of the stuff you've done down there and stuff too. So that's
been great.
Good listen. So, yeah. You got anything else to talk about? Because I think I haven't even looked at the time. Yeah, we're in an hour and a half almost. So.
Wow, that's perfect.
Yeah, so it's funny. We don't really, honestly, all I was going to talk about as a topic tonight basically was the stuff I just covered, the getting help and mental health first aid a little bit is kind of a revisit to that.
Cool. Yeah.
And of course, we've mentioned on here before, you can go to NAMI.org. They're good about helping people with stuff. And then I also noticed the Hilarious World of Depression. They're sponsored by, was it makeitokay.org, I believe it is, which the goal of that group is to help fight the stigma of talking about mental health and everything like that. So that's pretty awesome too. So maybe go check them out. So, yeah. And I guess with all the business out of the way, as I say on the Salty Language program, if you want to continue the conversation, you can reach out to us via our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can email us at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. You can find this show on Twitter at thecrazylifepod. Excuse me. You can find Jen on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can also find her on her other podcast, Shake the Sheets, which is a pop culture popcast. Yeah, whatever. At shakethesheets.com. And Mr. Henno, how about you, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, and I'll try to. Usually when I post on Instagram, I also share to Twitter and to Facebook. So if you want to see some of my photos and things I've been doing down in Jamaica, if you go to Twitter, and I'll have to make some of my Facebook posts public, so you can go check that out. I know. Thanks for anybody that's been popping in and listening to Moving the Needle. And yeah, like Brian said, this week I was on Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks. So if you want to get hear a different side of me, check that out.
Yep. Definitely a different side of you. No,
oh, wow. Terrible.
I'm building this up. I'm building this up way more than it is. That's the best part.
That's true.
You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, Salty Language, at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so make sure you're careful where you're listening to it at. And you can find this show on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We are part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. So please go check out those networks, and there's a whole bunch of other shows on there that you may enjoy. And, yeah, that's all that stuff. So, like we kind of already covered here, make sure you reach out to people. Or even better, I liked your thing that kind of combines the two things I usually talk about at the end of the show of, reaching out to people and being kind, is noticing them, pay somebody a compliment, or, just make sure you're not being a creep about it, But,
hey baby, I just want to let you know, I know you exist.
Yeah. Yeah. And pepper spray. Yep. So.
Pepper spray.
Yeah. But make sure you reach out to your, to people you haven't talked to in a while, or one's going through a rough patch, or, even as I've said on here, the ones that always tell you I'm fine, because I'm fine is a coping mechanism so many times. So check on it on whoever you can, but also, and be kind to people when you can, but also in both situations, make sure you're keeping check on yourself and being kind to yourself as well. Because like Henno pointed out earlier, if, put the oxygen mask on yourself so that you can help others. Because otherwise, if you can't breathe, you can't be much help to anybody else. So, yeah, I think that's it. So, you want to take us out of here, Henno?
Yeah, this is straight from the book Alcoholics Anonymous. We have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We have been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience out of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and have been given the power to help others.